to the Steve Finnegan Show. And as always, every Thursday from 4:30 to 5, we have Jay on from Opportunity, Arkansas. Welcome, my friend. How are you doing?
Thank you, Steve. I'm doing great. It's good to be with you today.
Yes, lots of stuff going on. Folks, during the interview, like I said, I don't take callers, but Jay, I'm going to ask you real quick our question of the day, and then we'll get into the local topics. But I've asked the audience to now text in to the American Leak Detection text-in line, 501-403-5276, whether they think President Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act, given all the stuff going on right now in Minneapolis. What do you think?
Well, I'll admit to you, I haven't followed it that closely, and I'm also not an expert on the Insurrection Act. You know, we've tried to stay focused on Arkansas, but what I do know is that law and order is a top priority, and it should be maintained. I mean, it's one of the basic things we expect from our government.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, you know, when you reach a certain point, people are just willing to have law and order restored, whatever that takes. And, you know, ultimately, it's the government's responsibility to ensure that they're protecting life, liberty, and property. And, you know, I'm thankful in Arkansas that we're not having to deal with that. But I think ultimately anything you need, you know, that's what we depend on government to do, is do those basic things right.
And I agree. And whether it's the federal government, the state government, the county government, or the city governments, it should be the top priority is the safety and security of American people and American citizens. So I will put you in the yes column for that. As a matter of fact, I checked real quick. I posed the same question on my Facebook page and got a ton of responses there. But my liberal attorney friend, William Zach, I'm not going to give his last name, he was the only one that said no. Everybody else has said yes. So given what the text messages have been here to the station and the callers and yourself, it's an overwhelmingly yes, it's time to restore order so far.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, it's the basic responsibility of government. And I think it's what's frustrating for us as taxpayers is we see how much of our hard-earned money we send to the government through one way or another. And the government wants to do all these things to create these programs and intervene in the market and give handouts to this group of people. And then when you see that happening and then the government can't even get the basic things right, I think that's what really frustrates people. And it's one of the reasons we spend so much time making sure that government is not taking more than it should, and that we're getting the basic things right, as opposed to growing government to do every little thing that anyone could dream of with tax dollars.
Yes. And one of the things and that's a great segue into going into a topic that both of us wanted to go over today, and that is the fact that our state government's budget surplus has continued to grow, and they're taking in more money than the state. You know, the state has managed to fund all their priority categories, and we're still having a surplus. Now, putting a little bit of a surplus is a good thing. But, you know, I think we're getting to the point now where that the legislature should be looking at reducing the income taxes again. And we had a lot of folks that have said, Steve, when Jay comes on, can you address the property taxes with him? So we'll start off with the state income tax, Jay, and then what Opportunity Arkansas is got a new Pay As We Grow dashboard campaign, and let's get into that first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said it's exactly right. The state's doing well. The state is growing. The state government is collecting more tax dollars than was budgeted for. That was almost $400 million last year, and now we're on pace for almost $300 million of surplus this year. And what we have been missing is a plan to finally eliminate our state income tax. And so, like you said, we've launched this new resource just this week. It's at payaswegrow.com. We call it Pay As We Grow because it's our plan for Arkansas to finally get rid of our income tax and to give taxpayers a pay raise. And the way it works is that when we see growth in state revenue, like we've been seeing, your paycheck should grow as well. That's the entire point of the plan. So as state revenue grows, the plan would reduce income tax rates automatically, so that money goes back into the paychecks of people who are working in Arkansas. We've heard this from across the state. This is an extremely popular issue. Majority of Arkansans support eliminating our income tax. And the governor has said this is a goal of hers, and the legislature has done good work on reducing tax rates in the past few years, but we've started to stall out, and other states are starting to pass us. And I think what's been missing is a plan to finally get us to zero, as opposed to just coming in on occasion and cutting taxes here or there. This would put us on a path to get there in a fiscally responsible way, in a way that rewards hard work.
Yes, and Arkansans are among the hardest working people in this country. We all know that.
Absolutely. And to your other point about property tax. So I think you mentioned it, that Arkansas is one of the lowest property taxes in the country.
Yes.
And the reason we focus on income tax is that it is felt the hardest by young people, people with families, people who are trying to get ahead. And also, we do not have to have an income tax, in that there are states in this country that do not have an income tax. There is a path for us to get there. And all that money, the income tax revenue, goes to the state. And so we can chart out a path to get us to zero. I kind of compare this to the grocery tax. That's something we talked about last year. The state finally eliminated the grocery tax. And that is something that we'd called for, that had been worked on for years. It was interesting, when we finally got rid of the grocery tax, you almost saw some conservatives complaining, because they said, well, it's not a big enough tax cut. It's like, well, that is a great problem to have. Our goal with all these taxes should be to reduce them down so that they are so low that we can finally get them off the books completely and eliminate the possibility of raising these taxes on our citizens. And that's the goal with income tax. It's the reason we're starting there, because there's a path to get to zero.
Yes, and I'm looking at, your I looked at it, of course, as part of show prep before the Pay As We Grow segment there on Opportunity Arkansas's website. And it's very interesting and informative, folks, so I would recommend that you go there. But since you brought up the food taxes, the elimination of the sales tax, I actually had on Money Monday several listeners that were still, and I had to explain it to a couple of them. Steve, I'm still getting charged sales tax on my food. How can that be possible if the state eliminated it? And I said, well, that's because in Arkansas, we allow our cities and our counties to also institute sales tax on top of the state's sales tax. So even though the state's sales taxes have been eliminated on groceries, that the county governments and the city governments are still, in some cases, imposing taxes on groceries.
Well, that's right. And that's also the case for property taxes. Property taxes are assessed locally and go to fund local schools and local government in many cases. And this is just another reason why we're focusing on income tax right now, because this revenue flows to the state. The state has other revenue sources. And anytime we can take the opportunity to take a tax off the books completely, that's something that everybody should be excited about, because it puts more money back into the pockets of working people. I think another reason that you see, you kind of see this dynamic play out, the income tax is for many folks kind of a hidden tax, in that if you work a job, it comes out of your paycheck before you see it, it's withheld, and you might get a refund at the end of the year, but you don't actually have to sit down and make out that payment. Whereas for property taxes, a lot of people are having to sit down and write out those bills.
Yes.
And so I think, a lot of times the income tax is hidden, but if we actually put this Pay As We Grow plan in place, we could see ordinary working Arkansans, the majority of people in the state, getting a pay raise every time we see these surpluses. So when I come on your show and we talk about the state got another surplus, well, what this plan would say is every time that happens, a portion of that money gets dedicated to go right back into the paychecks of Arkansans.
Yes. Well, Jay, as you know, we got to stop because one of our objectives here is to help our listeners get home safely and avoid any traffic jams. So it's time for us to go and check the traffic. Folks, I'll be back with Jay after the traffic report. You're listening to me, Steve Finnegan. And welcome back, everyone, to the Steve Finnegan Show. And I have with me my good friend and guest, Jay Robertson from Opportunity, Arkansas. We've been talking all things taxes today, sales tax, property tax, and income taxes here in Arkansas. And Jay, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Always good to be with you. Yes,
it's always good to have you. Now, as we're going through this funding, I see that 61% of Arkansas voters are now in favor of eliminating the income tax, and that's up significantly from previous polls. So I wanted to give that information out so the audience is aware of the polling that you've done, a 16-point increase over the last poll.
That's right. Yeah. So one of the reasons we put out this resource on Pay As We Grow, and for everyone that's listening, you can go to payaswegrow.com to check this out. But we've got the full polling on there. That's one of the things we do here at Opportunity Arkansas is we like to get a pulse for where the public is at. So we research these issues, and like you said, a strong majority, 61% of people support fully phasing out the state income tax. And I think it's also important to note that Arkansas is not in a vacuum here. So we're surrounded by 6 states, and there's actually been some news on this week. So 2 of our neighboring states, Tennessee and Texas, have no income tax already. 2 of our other neighboring states, Oklahoma and Mississippi, just last year passed a pay-as-we-grow type plan to fully phase out their income tax. The 2 other states, Missouri and Louisiana, both of their governors came out this week and said, we're working to get our state to zero income tax. So we are at risk of falling behind because, as you know, we're always competing for jobs and investment with these places. Thankfully, our governor has also signaled that she's ready to phase out the state income tax. Our legislators have done some work on this, and the only missing piece has really just been a plan to get us there, to fully get us to zero, to reward the people that are working in this state. And so that's why we've launched Pay As We Grow, to say this is how we get to zero, and it's a plan that we can put in place today to get Arkansas to where we need to be.
Yes, and I'm all for that. It's just, one of the problems, and we have to talk about that too, is Texas does have a much higher property tax for both businesses and for homeowners than Arkansas does, and Florida also experiences that. I know Governor DeSantis had mentioned that that's one of the things that they need to work on in Florida. And
and I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that comes up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier, so in Arkansas, the property tax revenue is going to the local governments and the local schools. So we're talking about state revenue here. Income tax goes to the state. Also, sales tax goes to the state. And so the thing about Arkansas is we already have a pretty high state sales tax, as people probably know. And so we are in a position where we can reduce and eliminate the income tax without having to rely on any sort of tax increases. Because the reality is in this state, we're not going to see tax increases. And there's more than enough revenue coming into the state from these other sources to support the needs of our government. And so I'm glad you brought it up because it's a concern always. But as I mentioned with the grocery tax, anytime we can get a tax off the books completely, it should be a big win. And it requires vigilance. It requires people being engaged to let their representatives know that it's time to cut taxes because people are really feeling the pinch of inflation still in the community.
Yes. And, I'm going to tell you about a history and how income taxes go because this was one of the things that I remember was the bicentennial year. So I was probably around 12 years old. I wouldn't have been 13 until November. There was a governor in New Jersey by the name of Brendan Byrne. He was a Democrat, of course. Now, the one thing I will say about Governor Byrne, he was a private practice attorney, and then he was appointed as the Essex County prosecutor. Now, Essex County is Newark, New Jersey. So I think at this point, Newark is the biggest. It's bigger than Jersey City. So the biggest city in New Jersey is there. And the FBI in the 60s, while he was the prosecutor there, taped some of the mafioso, and they said that they couldn't buy this guy off, that he had ethical standards. So I'll say that, there are once in a while a few politicians with those. With that said, New Jersey, even back in the 70s and the 60s, had among the highest property taxes in the country. So Governor Byrne convinced the people in New Jersey that if they would simply vote for a state income tax, that they would lower the property taxes. Well, you know what happened, Jay? His initial tax on income in New Jersey was 2% on incomes below $20,000 and 2.5% on incomes above $20,000. So now New Jersey has the second highest property taxes. I think their sales tax is 7%. The state doesn't allow counties or cities to add to it. They give turnback money. And the income tax rate in New Jersey is now 10.75%. So yeah, unchecked. And this is why people are leaving those states. Now, I said to all the people that are coming down, please come down as long as you're not going to vote for Democrats and do to us what we're trying to get away from.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point that, one of the greatest things about living in Arkansas, like you said, we have a hardworking people here and people who value hard work and understand that when the state takes money from the paycheck, somebody who's been working all day, we need to be really thoughtful about how we're spending that money. And if we're taking more than we need to, it's time to send it back.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the entire point of this, and the reason that we talk about this issue so much, because Arkansans deserve to have that work rewarded and to enjoy the fruits of their labor, rather than allowing government to squander it on some new program. And every tax dollar we collect, there's a choice. We can either spend it or we can send it back to the person who earned it. And we're in a place right now where it's time to start sending those dollars back to the people who earned it.
Yes. And I'm glad that we're looking for ways here to cut taxes, and our fiscal house is in order. So that is a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, we've shown that it's possible. Like I said, we've had several rounds of income tax cuts the last few years. All we need now is the plan to get us where we need to go. And so we're looking forward to seeing that happen soon.
Okay, my friend. Well, I'll look forward to next week, and we'll see where things are by then. You have a blessed rest of the week.
Thanks, Steve. Talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, my friend. All right. There he goes, everybody. Jay from Opportunity, Arkansas. And I will be back after the top of the hour news with hour number 2 of today's show.